No matter who they ask, people get the most scared when the truth keeps coming out. Just that line shows why everyone went crazy. They didn't answer because you were too loud. They didn't respond because you were insisting on being heard. They did something because it became more and more clear as they looked into it. It wasn't hype. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a phase. This was stability standing in front of them, not moving. That scares people who live off of doubt. Take a look at this. People don't think twice about leaving a building that looks like it might fall down. But people start to circle a building that stands straight after every storm. They hit the walls. They check the doors. An engineer is asked if it's really that strong. That's not because they want it to fail, but because they're scared that it won't. That's what you turned into. A building that didn't break. They did not find flaws. They found confirmation. This is the part they didn't see coming. Researchers who study how people act have found that when several different sources agree on a conclusion, the brain takes it as true. It ends the questioning. It stops fighting back. That's exactly what took place. Not a word of gossip was said. They were making sure. They weren't interested. They were scared. And the same thing was said back to them in every quiet conversation. He is the one, yes. Chosen one. Let's take a moment to think before we go any further. Pay it back by pressing like and subscribe if this message is getting through. To reach, not to get more people. Things like this only move forward with the help of people who get them. Thanks for being a part of that. You are not just watching by chance. You help get information to where it needs to go. Let us now talk about what really happened. They did not go straight to you. They didn't, of course. People don't usually face what scares them straight on. They went around you slowly, quietly, and nervously instead. They asked questions that didn't sound serious but were important. What do you think about him? Have you seen anything strange? Does he really act that way all the time? They were looking for a pause, a crack, a story that didn't fit, or anything else small that would help them calm down. But each answer was correct. Someone talked about how disciplined you are, and someone else talked about how calm you are. Someone else said you were always the same, no matter who saw you. The tone changed then. Being interested turned into worry because it's easy to ignore inconsistency. Conclusions are forced by consistency. You didn't give them a puzzle to figure out. They couldn't say no to the pattern you gave them. Dear beloved, if you found this video, I don't think it was by accident. God has a way of leading His chosen ones exactly where they need to be. We want to be honest with you, family. From these videos, we earn nothing. Every video is created purely out of love for God and love for you. It is your small gifts and donations that encourage us to keep going, to keep making content like this for His glory. Without your support, this mission would be very hard to carry. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you to every one of you who has given. God sees you and God will honor you. There is a family waiting for you on our community platform. Brothers and sisters who came broken, came searching, and found something life-changing. Not just content, but people who truly care. Our most faithful supporters are featured on our platform, a place of honor for those who sow into this ministry. You are chosen, you are loved, and there is a home waiting for you. Find the community link in the description. Come home, beloved. We are waiting for you. This is what makes you different from everyone else. When people are watched, they usually do their best. When no one is around, you act the same, That's why the investigations into you end so quickly. There's nothing to show, no mask falling, and no contradiction. Alignment is rewarded by the universe, and it makes noise even when there is no sound. That's why rumors about you got stronger instead of weaker. They wanted opinions, but what they got was proof. As soon as that switch was turned on, panic broke out. Not panic that you can hear, but the kind that comes out as overthinking, sudden respect, forced distance, or awkward admiration. The kind where people stop making jokes about you and start comparing themselves to you. They changed how they saw you, not how you behaved, and how someone sees something is everything. This is the time when everyone freaked out. Realization is what it is, not chaos. You can't make an excuse for doubt at this point. That's when comparison stops being useful. They'll know you weren't competing at all at that point. They were working on something else while you were building something. You might not have seen it yet, but pay close attention. Questions about you have changed. No longer are people asking you if you're capable. They want to know how far you're going to go. They're not wondering if you're real. They're wondering how they missed it before. That's the silent crown being put on. Not a ceremony, just an announcement of recognition. And now comes the part that really makes the enemy mad. You didn't make this happen. You didn't say anything. You didn't protect your name. You let the truth come out. That's why it hurts so much. When the truth doesn't need a voice, it can't be avoided. The room changes automatically when someone reaches that level. Conversations get quieter, tracking eyes, thoughts become fixed. He is the one, yes. This isn't about ego, it's about getting along. It means staying steady for long enough that even doubters end up agreeing with you. Being the only one left with questions is a strange way for the universe to show who's real. That means things can't go back to the way they were before. This is why you may have felt like people were looking at you more closely, talking more slowly, or acting differently around you. The verdict is already in. The message wasn't meant for you, so you didn't hear it. It was for the crown and them. It's always been shy and shows up. Okay, chosen one. Let's take a quick break before we go any further. This part is more important than you think. You didn't just land here and you're still listening by chance. It's possible that this message is sticking with you because you already know what time it is. Do this then. Stay. Don't go halfway or get distracted. You need to watch the whole thing because the next part only makes sense after you see the whole picture. People who leave early never get it, and then they wonder why things never quite click for them. Leave a simple comment with the number 777 if you're really tuned in. Not out of luck or superstition, but as a sign. Don't worry, I'm still here. I'm paying close attention. That small action lets the system know you're paying attention, and it helps this message reach people who are almost ready to realize the same thing. Also, if you want to help the group that is spreading this truth, please do so. It's not how much, but how fast it moves. This mission keeps moving with every little push. Take a deep breath and focus. This is going to be broken down step by step. If people are already scared because they know you're the one, what comes next will explain why. Let's start. First, they called everyone in the world, and everyone in the world told on them. They looked for dirt and found a mirror. That's when things went crazy. That's what it was, not interest or worry. It was panic dressed up as an investigation. They called all of them, not just one. Old friends, people whose names you had forgotten, people you hadn't talked to in years, and ex-partners who had every reason to drag you. There were old bosses who could have put you down, friends who knew your flaws, and enemies who would have loved to show one. They kept calling in the hopes that the law of averages would finally work out in their favor. Someone would have to crack. Someone would surely say, "Yeah, he's not that special." One weak voice was all they needed to calm down. They never got it. Each call was clear. There were different people, times, and events, but the conclusion was the same. You were reliable, you were solid, and you were exactly who you seemed to be. At that point, the mood changed from being interested to being scared. People who aren't sure of themselves are most scared of people who don't change when other people are around. Dear God lover, thank you for praying with us today. This community exists because people like you showed up, believed, and gave what they could. If this video touched your heart, we invite you to come home. Join our family through the link in the description and walk this faith journey with brothers and sisters who truly understand. Your presence means everything, and your support, however small, keeps this ministry going strong. Think about it this way. Think about someone trying to show that a diamond isn't real. They hit it hard on concrete while it's still sharp. They drop it while it's still whole. When they put pressure on it, it's still not marked. At some point, the tests stop being about finding the truth and start being about making people mad. That's where they were with you. They were no longer gathering information. They hoped that reality would finally change. It wasn't. You might be thinking, why go that far? Why not just walk away right now? It's because people don't leave things that make them feel bad about themselves. They look into it. They poke it. They are crazy about it. They couldn't explain away what you stood for. Someone who didn't need to be liked but still got respect for it. People who didn't try to be validated still felt validated by everyone else. That bothers people who are able to stay alive. It's also important to note that they were not seeking the truth. They wanted to know if they could fire you. That's a big difference. Truth is not biased. Permission is a feeling. They wanted a reason to chill out, to stop feeling small, and to stop wondering why your presence alone made the room cooler. But every conversation showed they were lying. Every person they called without knowing it spoke for you. At that point, the phrase, "everyone freaked out," stopped being dramatic and became a real thing. Because doubt falls apart when it has no one to support it. You didn't need to say anything. You didn't need to defend yourself. The verdict was made without you being there behind closed doors, which made it hurt more. There wasn't any hype made by fans. This was proof that skeptics had to accept. Just think about how uncommon that is. Most people can pretend to be someone else for a short time, just long enough to fool a new group of people. You can fake consistency in relationships, time and places, but not in time or space. That's why their plan didn't work. People thought you were a show. They talked about you like a rumor. But rumors don't hold up when they are looked into. You didn't. You kept. At this point, the enemy knows something painful. You weren't going up. You were made already. You were just being while they were networking, explaining, polishing, and selling. Being real gets more people to like you faster than pretending ever could. That's why they began asking different questions. At first, people asked, "Is he real? How long has he been like this?" became the question. The last one was the quiet one who didn't want to say it out loud. Why isn't that me? You might be wondering if they're embarrassed right now. The answer is yes, but not in a loud way. It's the internal kind, which can show up as awkward silence, sudden respect, forced praise, or distance that you can't explain. The kind where people watch you instead of challenging you. When jokes stop being funny and the tone changes, it's not a coincidence. There it is. Recognition setting in. Did they expect you to fail? May also be on your mind. To be honest, yes. People test things that they secretly want to fail because failing would make it okay for them to stay where they are. They lost that comfort because of your survival, your stability, and your clean record from so many points of view. They didn't want to hear this truth, but they do. You did not sneak around. You didn't change how people saw things. You didn't break when you were questioned. That's why the crown just shows up out of the blue, a social and psychological crown, not a literal one. The kind that makes rooms adjust to fit you, stops people from arguing about your opinions, and means your name doesn't need to be defended because it already stood up to cross-examination. Yes, he is the one. That's not praise. It means agreeing with what is clear. The truth is finally being admitted by those who were trying to deny it. Choose one. Let this sink in. You didn't win by doing better, you won by beating doubt. You didn't change for so long that even your critics ran out of other stories to tell. There's no luck in that. That's alignment. Patterns that hold up under pressure are rewarded by the universe, and that's exactly what they did. If you've noticed a change, this is the reason. People stare longer. The respect is stronger. The mood changes when you walk into a room. In the end, that's what happens, not ego. That's what happens when an investigation crowns the person it was meant to expose by accident. They called everyone, and the same thing was said by everyone. That's not hype. It's the end of the game. The second thing is that the gavel hit the floor, and reality didn't ask for an appeal. When the verdict is clear, the loudest response is silence. That's the exact way it landed. There will be no debate, delay, or dramatic pause. As soon as the last person said the same thing, the case was over. They didn't need to get together or compare notes. Too much truth was in one place. That's when it hit them. No longer was this an opinion. It was confirmation after confirmation until denial had nowhere to stand. They held the phone and stared at nothing because things didn't go the way they planned. They were ready for mixed reviews. They were ready for contradictions. They thought there would be at least one story that didn't fit. Instead, the truth hit them like a wall. The same message, the same tone, the same respect, over and over. You were more than real. You stayed the same no matter the time, the pressure, or the distance. One thing that can't be faked over time is consistency. Imagine that the jury agrees with everything before the trial even starts. Just don't argue. No convincing. It was just a shared understanding. That's what it was. Everyone who knew you in a different way was a witness, even if they didn't know it. In different parts of your life, different places to live, different forms of yourself. But the core stayed the same in some way. That's when the word verdict stopped being dramatic and became true. It's likely that this thought crossed your mind. How come it happened so quickly? The truth doesn't need time to get together. Lies do. The truth comes out fully formed. Lies need to be practiced. They knew there would be noise. They got things made clear. And clarity doesn't stop, so it moves quickly. What made them feel so badly about this is another question you might have. The reason is that people can handle competition, but not certainty. They feel hopeful when they compete. Surety gets rid of excuses. The ground gave way under them as soon as they realized you weren't just another choice, but the standard. If you say the same quiet sentence over and over, it turns into a conclusion that no one wants to argue with. It's louder to be undeniable than to be impressive. That's what made them not ready for the difference. As impressive fades, undeniable takes its place. It turns into the standard. They weren't just made to respect you, they had to change how they judge other people too. That makes me feel bad because once a standard is set, everything else is on display. Imagine someone who fights their whole life over what real strength looks like. One person walks into the room and the fight ends. Not because they said something, but because just being there answered the question. That's what took place. We didn't agree with you. They thought they would find exaggeration. They found it to be too mild. They were ready for ego. They learned to be calm. They thought there would be cracks when the pressure was put on it. No matter who asked, they got the same calm answer. After that, there was silence. Here, silence isn't a sign of disorder. Acceptance is coming late. Before you close this video, I want you to know there are people on the other side of the link in our description who have been waiting for someone like you. A community of chosen ones, God lovers, who pray together and carry each other through life. Come and find your place among them, and if your heart says give, trust that feeling. Your support is what makes this mission possible, and God will honor every seed you plant in faith. Here's another truth that you should understand. Not only what you do, but also how you move, what you say, how you don't over-explain, and how you don't try to get approval. That stands out more than words. Since this is the case, no one could lie about you. They have to try. Lies need an emotional reason. You didn't give them any. People lied to keep themselves safe, not to show what scares them. In fact, even your enemies were honest because of this. They would have shown how weak they were by dragging you. They would have looked insecure if they had put you down. For their own safety, they told the truth, not because they were loyal. Now that's a different kind of proof. When someone who is honest shows up where hostility was expected, the case is over. Imagine jumping off of buildings to show that gravity doesn't exist. The test comes to an end at some point. Not because you're sure, but because it's clear what will happen. When denial has no more room, this is how it works. They didn't agree with the verdict even though they meant to. They gave up because fighting it was pointless. You might wonder if they are impressed or scared. Both is the answer. They are impressed enough to respect you and scared enough to stay away from you. The energy that comes from that mix is strange. People are careful what they say around you. Compliments make you feel better. There is no more criticism. It's not a coincidence. That's the hierarchy changing without saying anything. There are no declarations of legends. They are concluded. That line is important because no one publicly crowned you. Not anyone had to. It was an internal, private, and unanimous decision. Those are the decisions that stand. It's possible for public praise to be fake. It costs a lot to acknowledge someone privately. People only do it when they have no other choice. Think about a scale that always tips over the same way, no matter how much weight you put on the other side. That's what all of the talks did. It was history, it was context, and it was point of view. The scale didn't move. It didn't get louder. You stayed heavier, more grounded, and more solid. You may also be wondering if this changes anything for you. From the outside, maybe not right away. On the inside, it should, because this is when you stop underestimating how much staying real will help. Right now, you understand that being quiet helped you more than any words could have. Now, they compare other people to you without meaning to. That's the way rules work. If you compare them, they will always be there. When someone else is sure of themselves, they think of you. When someone says they are consistent, they think of you. When someone tries to impress, they can tell the difference. That's not ego, that's power. The standard doesn't argue, it just is. That's why the verdict turned out the way it did. Not sad or exhilarating, just final. It wasn't hype that made you feel good. It was being seen from every angle and still keeping your shape. Things that are rare always make the room more interesting. This is where the change you felt recently came from. The investigation was over, the whispers stopped, and the energy changed again. Once something is decided, people don't question it. They just accept it. That's what they're doing right now. Not only was the verdict given right away, it could not be changed. Third, that sure of himself grin fell apart in the middle of the dial. When they looked for cracks, they tripped over your foundation. At first, they were calm and almost amused. No matter where you were, you could hear it in their voice. It was meant to be simple. A few calls, some friendly questions, and maybe even a few laughs at your expense. As they called, they leaned back and imagined the moment when someone would finally say it. That's right, it's not true. He's not really like that, though. It's mostly an act. That smirk was caused by a dangerous kind of certainty that thinks things will go as planned in real life. So, they asked in a light way, acting like it was just a harmless question. What's going on? Does he really act like that all the time? They asked the question in a way that made it easy for doubt to arise, which was akin to begging for betrayal. But this is where their plans went wrong. The bait wasn't taken. Not a single person shook the truth. Not a single person spread rumors. There was no drama in what came back. It was an explanation, clear, calm, and consistent words that all pointed in the same direction. With each answer, they looked a little less sure of themselves. Someone said that you worked hard and were able to stay awake longer than everyone else. Someone else talked about your focus and how, once you lock in, there are no more distractions. Someone else talked about how your energy feels different, heavier, and like it's on a different frequency. These weren't compliments. These were just thoughts. That's what made them dangerous. Think about someone standing in the rain and trying to show that a storm is not real. That's what those calls turned into. They got wetter as they reached out. It's not a myth that's built on hype, but a reputation that's built on repetition. And saying something over and over again makes it true. Given that they weren't ready to hear alignment, you might wonder why this bothered them so much. They were ready for a mess. There is room for doubt in chaos. When you align it, it turns off. When stories don't fit together, the brain stops arguing. At that point, confidence turns into discomfort. When confidence realizes it was wrong about the room, it goes away quickly. That's when the smirk went away. There was no news or drama. It was just a quiet shift. They made calls less often, paused longer, and realized that they couldn't call this bluff. They had not thought this standard would be high enough. They built your legend piece by accident, not by praising you, but by confirming you. Every time they called to say bad things about you, it added more proof against them. That's the funny part. They were caught when the trap they set snapped shut. The worst part is that they know it. You only need to agree with the truth for it to be true. You can claim your foundation if you know they won't be able to dig it up. Write undeniable standard in the comments. Show them that the proof is already there. Number 4, not even your past could betray you. A past that stays true to the present scares people more than anything else. This is where it really hurt them. They believed that the past would clean up after them. It works like that most of the time. Look back, find anger and regret, pull out a messy chapter, and hold it up as proof. They were sure that someone from the past would finally figure out what it was. An ex-lover who still feels hurt, a former boss who has ego issues, or an old friend who has lost touch and needs a reason to feel better about themselves. This was meant to be simple ammunition. Your past stood up and told the same story. Your ex didn't say nice things about you, but they also didn't ignore you either. After taking a moment to think about what they were going to say, they said what they didn't want to say out loud. Even back then, you were different. You were focused, intense, and operating at a level that made people feel uneasy. That's not looking back. That is unwilling honesty. The truth is solid when not even feelings can change it. Before you go, I want you to know there is a home waiting for you. A place where we pray together, grow together, and support one another every single day. Visit our website through the link below to join our prayer family, and if your heart leads you, to sow a seed into this ministry. Your support is what makes it possible for us to keep going. Thank you, and God bless you richly. The next thing your old boss said was true, not with admiration. You were thinking outside of the job description and doing more than what was asked of you. You were carrying weight that wasn't yours. It wasn't hard for you. People who lead from behind always feel bad about it after the fact. Even though old friends tried to make it better by being mean, they failed. They talked about how driven and disciplined you were and how you didn't need permission to grow. Their tone told us who they were. It's not careful how you talk about people who don't matter. You're careful when you talk about people who make you think of what you weren't able to become. Being angry is just respect that wasn't dealt with. If you try to disprove a painting by talking to the canvas, the brush, and the artist, all three of them will confirm the same signature style. That's what took place. Different times, different people, but the same core. You didn't change who you are to appeal to new groups of people. It's not often that the spine stays the same even after evolution. This is where the investigation really turned around. They were no longer finding flaws. They were making a map of consistency. The thing they thought would make you weaker ended up making it stronger. They didn't show fraud. Instead, they showed how long you'd been this way. Instead of cracks, they found evidence of how much pressure was put on it. This is the part they didn't see coming. Your past not only helped you, it also kept you safe. It got closer. It didn't want to lie for you because it didn't have to. When history can't go against you, the argument is over. When you were lying, the past only turns against you. When those talks were over, they were quieter than when they started because they knew it wasn't a moment, something new, or luck. You were always the one. It wasn't like you became it all of a sudden. Fifth, their lack of consistency was what finally broke them. Being impressive won't get you past people. Being the same everywhere will. This is where their last chance died. It wasn't because you were flashy or perfect, but because you were the same no matter who was watching. Each story they got fit together like it had been practiced, even though it hadn't been. The truth comes out of many mouths, different memories, but the same heart. There are no holes for doubt to hide in. There aren't any contradictions to play up, just alignment. And alignment is very hard for people who want things to fall apart. They were ready for the mask to fall and someone to say, "He's not like that in private." That's how most people are found out. Public trust, private chaos, a loud image, and a weak base. But you changed the pattern. Your inner self was sharper than the one you showed the world. That person is more controlled, focused, and dangerous when they are alone. That was what messed up their story. Imagine that someone thinks that a performer is normal behind the scenes, but the real work is done when the lights are off. That's you. No need for an audience, no need for applause. The performance wasn't the best part. They were ready, which is why they couldn't poke holes in you. You were just being. You were running. Dear beloved, if you found this video, I don't think it was by accident. God has a way of leading His chosen ones exactly where they need to be. We want to be honest with you, family. From these videos, we earn nothing. Every video is created purely out of love for God and love for you. It is your small gifts and donations that encourage us to keep going, to keep making content like this for His glory. Without your support, this mission would be very hard to carry. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you to every one of you who has given. God sees you, and God will honor you. There is a family waiting for you on our community platform. Brothers and sisters who came broken, came searching, and found something life-changing. Not just content, but people who truly care. Our most faithful supporters are featured on our platform, a place of honor for those who sow into this ministry. You are chosen, you are loved, and there is a home waiting for you. Find the community link in the description. Come home, beloved. We are waiting for you. If you don't wear a mask, it won't slip off. This is real strength, right? No performance, just power below. To set a standard for yourself. If you are acting on pure authenticity, people act smart when they're not, and they hide their weaknesses when they're not. You hid your strength. That thought came to them late and hit them hard, because doubt likes it when things aren't consistent. Others calm down when people say things that aren't true. They can make it sound like nothing happened. They can ignore it. You didn't let them have that. In old stories, quiet rooms, stressful times, and everyday conversations, you were the same. Being that reliable is very rare, and most people get nervous around rare things. You might wonder what was so bad about this for them, because being consistent shows how well everyone else is doing. Excuses don't work once you're in the picture. All of a sudden, effort matters. Discipline is important. Honesty is important. People who get by with shortcuts feel naked in comparison. Being consistent isn't dull. It's dangerous. They wanted to think that your image was inflated, but the truth was that you were stronger, more impressive, and heavier than people thought. They knew they weren't dealing with a persona at that point. They had to deal with a standard. Standards don't fight either. They don't say why. They don't stand their ground. They don't do anything, but they make everything else fit or fall apart. Their story fell apart because of that. Everyone knew the truth about you, not because of what you said, but because your life spoke for itself. Before you even spoke, your footprints showed who you were. Impact changes people, while image impresses them. This was the point where it stopped being a debate. They were hearing more than just descriptions of you. They were hearing stories with outcomes. People talked about what changed in their lives after you came into it, not what you said. The tone changed again at that point, because anyone can look good, and not many people leave a trail. Someone said that you challenged them without even trying, just by being there. Another person said that you raised the bar so high that it made them uncomfortable. Someone else told me that they still think about you, not out of regret, but as a way to measure how well they are doing.